Okay, so good evening, everyone. Again, wonderful to see all of you, and thank you for joining. Again, we'll start as usual with calming our mind by watching the breath mindfully for a few moments. Then we can try to reflect and feel. May us coming here together, giving our precious time with a good intention, become cause and conditions to be able to practice the Bodhisattva path in our everyday life as much as possible. May it be cause and conditions to actualize your renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom realizing emptiness within our mind stream and all sentient being mind stream. And may it be cause and condition to obtain fully awakened state so we can be most and greatest benefit and help to each and every sentient being. And may we be able to actualize the path and bhumi, all the lumbering realizations, in order to achieve that fully enlightened state. If possible in this life, if not, in future life. Okay.
I cannot share anything on the screen. I'm not sure why.
Mm-hmm. So then we just do the refuge and bodhicitta, I guess. Sangye Chödan Zogi Sonam La Chanjo Pado Dane Gapsa Che Dage Shwe Gibe Sonam Dola Penje Sangye Yoga Sangye Chödan Zogi Sonam La Chanjo Pado Dane Dage Shwe Gibe Sonam Dola Penje Sangye Yoga Sangye Chödan Zogi Sonam La Chanjo Pado Dane Dage Shwe Gibe Sonam Dola Penje Sangye Yoga Sho. So I think we finished up to verse number 28, and I think we're on 29. So again, once we have taken the both of the vows, aspiring and engaging, once we have cultivated the aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta as well as taking the vows, then how to train in that, how to train to training the morality of the bodhisattvas, after taking the vows, and then in terms of training the morality of the bodhisattvas, then the training, the practice of morality of restraining or refraining from the misdeeds, and training into the morality of benefiting other sentient beings, or engaging the well-being of other sentient beings, and then training in the moral discipline of bodhisattvas in encompassing or in gathering the other virtues. So those three trainings one need, and then in the kind of summarizing after that. So intermode. And within that, I think we just finish training in the moral discipline of restraining or refraining from the misdeeds. And next one is training the moral discipline of the bodhisattvas in helping, benefiting, or engaging in the activity to benefit and help others. So that is verse number 29. So I shall not be eager to reach enlightenment in the quickest way, but shall stay behind till the very end for the sake of single beings. So when we train in both of the path to be benefit to others, in both of the training, we try to generate as courageous attitude as much as possible, as incredible courageous as possible, For us, because when you don't have that kind of courageous bodhisattva's attitude, then we see suffering is unbearable, and we want to get out of that suffering, how to get out of that samsara as quickly as possible, and we want to achieve enlightenment as quick as possible because we cannot bear the suffering and pain. So we want to kind of escape, run away from it as quick as possible. But the bodhisattvas, their incredible courageous attitude, that they don't want to escape from the problems. They want to be in a problem to solve the other sufferings. They want to be in suffering they want to be in a place where there is a suffering so they can be more benefit and help to others. Such is incredible, courageous. And so here, that is what is courage, without wishing to achieve fully enlightenment as quick as possible for oneself, but, cultivating the incredible courageous that even if I have to remain in the samsara for eons and eons to benefit even one sentient beings, may I be able to remain in the samsara for eons and eons. Such is the Bodhisattva incredible attitude they're trained in. And that is similar to the verses you see in Lama Choba. There is a verses for the even if I have to remain in the hell realms for eons and eons, even for just one sentient beings, may I never lose compassion, and may I be able to perfect the perseverance. Such is training with the Bodhisattvas. The courage, the willingness to remain as long as is needed to be benefit. Therefore, I think I have also shared stories. One of my teachers and abbot of the Kopan Monastery, Lama Lundu, before he passed away, couple of days before he passed away, Lama Soba Rinpoche came to visit him. He had a cancer, and so he has been dealing with that for a couple of years, and time was coming. So Lama Soba was there, and so Rinpoche is his Lama Lundu teacher as well. So, and because Lama Lundu was weak, so he couldn't go up. So Lama Soba came to meet him, and I wasn't there at that time, I wasn't actually even in Kopan at that time. I was in Europe, but I saw some video someone has taken, So when Rinpoche came, and then Lama Lundu, making offerings, katas, and very weak, and then he made a request to Lama Soba Rinpoche, and the request was, if it's the best benefit for me to remain in hell realms, please bless me to do that. That was the request he made to his teachers, Guru. For us, we would request, please pray me that I don't go in hell realms. Please pray me, he prayed the opposite. If it is most beneficial to others for him to be in the hell realms, please bless me to be able to be born there. Such is, these are true Bodhisattva attitude. Despite him physically experiencing a lot of pain, being in samsara and all this kind of illness, going through all this treatment, illness, it is not easy, it's painful. And, despite that, he didn't request him to be free from the samsara or free from that, but he requests, if it is most beneficial for me to be benefit to others, to be by remaining in hell realms, please bless me to that. And I think similar, this is what it means, he could have asked for quick enlightenment. Please bless me to achieve enlightenment very quick as possible. But he didn't ask that request. He was more requesting whatever is beneficial, wherever is needed, please bless me to be too. So even it means if I have to remain in the hell realm, the worst, or not just one lifetime, eons and eons. And I have shared that story if you still remember. The 14th Dalai Lama says, he was reading biography of the first Dalai Lama, And then in the biography, it talked about at the end of his life, the first Dalai Lama, his life was coming to kind of end. And so many of his disciples or others, colleagues, when they say, you have done so much for the other beings, you have done so much for the Dharma, you have dedicated your life for all of that, Now, you would be kind of, be born in a pure land. And the first Dalai Lama makes that comments, I'm not interested in pure land. I rather not be born in pure land. I would rather to be born in this samsara where there's so much suffering, so I can continue to walk and benefit. Such is attitude of bodhisattvas. For us, if we are given a choice to be born in pure land where there is no suffering, or to become in this world where there's a lot of suffering, definitely we will choose for the pure land where there's no suffering, because we don't have the courage. We don't have the same bodhisattva's courage and attitude at the moment. We don't have same level of that, But those who have trained in such attitude, such a bodhisattva's courageous attitude, they are not afraid to come into sufferings, because their compassion is more stronger than anything else. So that compassion gives them incredible courage and willing to go through whatever suffering that in order to be help and benefit to others. Not afraid to face the hardship, not afraid to face the suffering if it can be benefit to others. Such is incredible bodhisattva attitude. Even just hearing for us, forget about practicing, even just hearing those teachings, those stories, those attitudes, it's just such an inspiring. It's just such an inspiring. To know there are so many bodhisattvas like that in the world. To know that there are so many beings who are such a bodhisattva attitude and courage, and therefore, 14th Dalai Lama himself, he said when he read the first Dalai Lama's biography, that part really inspired him. That part really touched him. He said it really touched him, that particular part. Really touched his heart, and then that is also his holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, one of the prayers he make every day, every time, is as long as the sky remains, sentient beings remain, as the space remain, may I also to remain to dispel the miseries of the sentient beings. And that is his commitment. Not just praying just from the mouth, but that is he made that commitment every day, all the time. That is his favorite prayer. You see, even if he might not do other prayer dedication, he will do that all the time. And that is his commitment, that he's not dedicating praying to achieve enlightenment quickly. He's not dedicating praying to achieve enlightenment quickly. What he's dedicating and praying is to remain in the samsara, to dispel the suffering of others. Such is incredible bodhisattva's attitude, is beyond our mind conceptions. But all this come through training. All this come through training, And so that is where here, training that kind of attitude, training that kind of courageous, If we train and if we are able to develop such a courage and attitude, then, no problem, difficulties, challenge, adversary will really make your mind low and down. You wouldn't, when you have made it, when you have this courage to remain in health and for eons, even for one sentient beings, whatever challenges will go in this life, nothing compared to that. Do you get it? you feel is nothing. It's nothing, it's nothing. When you have made such an incredible commitment and such a courage, the problem that you face, this is nothing. It's not a problem compared to that. It's not a challenge, big challenge compared to that. It's not a big difficulty compared to that. It's not a hardship compared to that. So then you are able to deal with much more ease. And I think that is one of the reasons also how His Holiness Dalai Lama, for example, how he deal with all the challenges, difficulty that he has faced in his life. And not being, not kind of, not allowing those to make his mind down and low, knocked him down. He, despite all the challenges, he still is able to stand up, be positive, hopeful, and continue to never kind of become so depressed, low, helpless, hopeless. And the reason is, because he has such an attitude, Bodhisattva's attitude and courage because of the Bodhicitta mind. And therefore, and his commitment to benefit and remain in samsara, to deal with those suffering as long as it's needed. So then he feels these are part of that, all these are part of that training, or part of what you made commitment. And so it doesn't really bother and knock you down, And yes, Eloise.
So Geshe, it leads me to believe that these beings that you're talking about, the first Dalai Lama and our current His Holiness and Lama Lundrup, and it leads me to believe that these are enlightened beings. Because first of all, you can't, saying that you don't want to get enlightened quickly, but you can't get enlightened unless you have really developed, have actualized bodhicitta. So we're always told that we want to get enlightened because at that point we'll have the omniscience or the vision or the understanding what people really need, how we or beings need, and so that we can really help them. So a being that's willing to stay here is either enlightened already, or is able to be of assistance or to be of benefit to others as they would be if they were enlightened. Mm-hmm. So this verse is confusing to me. It just leads me to believe that these are enlightened beings that are manifesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to believe they are enlightened, but at the same time, I cannot say with 100% authority and convinced that they're enlightened. But I believe even whether they are enlightened or not fully enlightened, I mean enlightened, but not fully enlightened, even either they are on both sattvas or fully enlightened, But definitely they are one who have cultivated the bodhicitta mind and who have that kind of courageous bodhicitta attitude. There's no doubt about that. That part I can say with sure. But it's all our training. It's training your mind. When you make such a commitment to remain in samsara and not achieve enlightenment quickly, actually you reach enlightenment more quickly by the power of your bodhicitta attitude. And they don't do it because they want to achieve enlightenment quickly. But the reality is they are able to achieve enlightenment more quickly because their compassion is much more stronger than others. The compassion, the bodhicitta is stronger than others. And so therefore, as much as you want to remain in samsara and with that bodhicitta mind, but reality, you achieve enlightenment more quickly because your bodhicitta is more stronger than normal bodhicitta. So, like for example, there is a, in Maitreya's ornament of the clear realizations, in that it describes our three type of bodhicittas. Bodhicitta like a shepherd, bodhicitta like a boatman, and bodhicitta like a king. Okay, there are three kind of, in terms of how people, practitioner or bodhisattva develop bodhicitta, there are three type. King like bodhicitta is like the normal that we develop. First, the king leads the subjects. When you, in the old times, when kings, when they go to battle, the king leads, and all other soldier or even defender follow him. In that same way, to achieve enlightenment ourselves first, and then lead all sentient beings to that enlightened state. That is one way of cultivating bodhicitta mind. That is normally how we normally the wish to achieve enlightenment, so that we can lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. Then there is another bodhisattvas who generate the bodhicitta mind, and that bodhicitta mind is even more stronger in terms of courages. Is that like a bodhicitta like a boatman? In the boatmen who want to cross the ocean to other side of the shore, he and the passenger there together, they go together, and so the wish to achieve enlightenment all together, not first me and lead them to enlightenment, but the wish to achieve enlightenment, all of us, all sentient beings together at the same time. So there is certain practice training in that, and it's supposed to be more kind of, the attitude itself is more kind of courageous than the previous one. You are willing to wait and go together instead of you going first. And then when you have no more problems, no more suffering, then you can lead them to there, And the third part is like shepherd. It's like the shepherd, they come at the last, cowboys, shepherd, they send all the animals first, and then they chase from the behind. They chase from the behind, they come. And that is the cultivating bodhicitta mind, to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment and to achieve oneself at the last. The wish that you want to achieve enlightenment, but very last. After everyone has achieved enlightenment, then I want to achieve enlightenment. And so, remaining the courage is to remain very end, to push everyone to enlightenment and then achieve enlightenment yourself. That is another bodhisattvas, how they cultivate bodhicitta with that kind of courage. It is not possible. In reality, that last one achieved the enlightenment first. Second one, then second. And the first one who want to achieve the enlightenment first, then they achieve enlightenment comparatively among those three, maybe the last. Because even though they all are cultivating bodhicitta mind for the benefit of all sentient beings, but the level of courage is much more different. The commitment and courage to benefit and to go through hardship yourself, or the willingness to go through your hardship and the suffering, that kind of commitment, that kind of courage is much more stronger. And so when there is that kind of stronger courage, commitment, then definitely your bodhicitta is more stronger, and that's stronger, you accumulate more stronger merit, and also you make more stronger progress. So I think it's similar like that, similar like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe. That was a wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Stella, you have some questions? I see Stella, I see Bill, I'm coming.
Okay, go ahead, whoever.
Geshe-la,
Yes,
can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was under the impression that a bodhisattva is a Buddha also. Is that not right?
Yeah, no. Bodhisattvas are not Buddha, they are still on the path. Bodhisattvas are those beings who have cultivated true bodhicitta, but who have not achieved fully enlightenment at the moment. So there are different levels of bodhisattvas, okay? There are many different levels of bodhisattvas. We talk about 5 paths, 10 bhumis. Then the first path of bodhisattva, second path, third path, fourth path, all of them are bodhisattvas, they are not fully enlightened. When you reach the 5th path, then that is when you become enlightened. The path of no more learning. That is when you become Buddha. The path of accumulation, the path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, they all are bodhisattvas, progressing from one path to another path progressively. But they all have bodhisattva at different level, but then all of them are not fully enlightened at the moment. Then the 5th one, it is called the path of no more learning. Then that is when you become Buddha, fully enlightened. And from the path of 3rd, the path of seeing, then there is 10 bhumis, you know.
Okay,
With each progress from one bhumi to another bhumi. And then after 10 bhumi, the 11th bhumi is the enlightenment, fully enlightenment. Yeah. Okay.
thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, Bill, yes, please.
Excuse me. Yeah, maybe I'm saying the same thing you've been saying here, but it seems to me that there are could be different levels of enlightenment, just as with the different levels of bodhisattva, bodhicitta, so that they would kind of work together, so that a certain degree would of enlightenment would, I guess, inspire a bodhicitta commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense?
So again, in the Buddhist scriptures, you know, generally they spoke about 3 enlightenment. Okay, the enlightenment of hearer, the enlightenment of solitary realizers, the enlightenment of the bodhisattvas. In that, the enlightenment of the hearer is when someone achieves, you know, what we call arhat, when someone's free from all the delusions. Free from all the delusions, then that person's, by following particular path of hearer, then you achieve that. Then the path of solitary realizers also, again, when you are free from all the delusions and certain subtle other delusions, and by at the end of your path, without relying on others, by relying on your own wisdom, you achieve enlightenment, and that is the enlightenment. And then the bodhisattvas, when they achieve their final goal, that is the enlightenment. So generally there are 3 levels of enlightenment. Okay, so definitely there is that level. And again, as I mentioned when I was explaining to Stella, you know, also there are many different levels of bodhisattvas with different level of their realizations. So, you know, it depends on how we use the word enlightenment, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We could say all the bodhisattvas enlightened, and then, but they are not fully enlightened. We could say they are enlightened, and in the first path, the second path, they are more enlightened than those who are in the first path. Third path, they are more enlightened than those who are in the first and second path, and so they are. You can say that it depends on how you use the word enlightenment. You know how loosely you use in one. But definitely There are different levels of enlightenment. And therefore, we use this word when we refer to the Buddha. We always use this word. We don't just say enlightenment, we use fully enlightened, fully awakened. Because there can be awakened, but not fully awakened. There can be enlightened, but not fully enlightened. So the Buddha is the one who is fully awakened and fully enlightenment based, because there is no more higher awakening than that. There's no higher enlightenment to achieve after that. There's no higher to be awakened from that. And so therefore there are many awakened state, enlightened state, but different stages of that, but not fully awakened, not fully enlightened. So yeah.
So I guess maybe any or pretty much any level of enlightenment would inspire compassion. It seems to me.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Which would,
Bodhisattva's path.
yeah.
Definitely all the Bodhisattva's path, they all are very much, inspired by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind, Without that bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, then you are not even a bodhisattva. In order to be a bodhisattva, you need to have true love, compassion, and bodhicitta mind. So they are result of love, compassion, and bodhicitta. Definitely they are inspired by love, compassion, and bodhicitta. Definitely they are on the path driven by love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. So yeah. And so they themselves, and also they inspire others to be more loving, more compassionate, more through their own practice, through their own examples, just like what we see. Like, just take an example, whether it is, Thich Nhat Hanh, whether it is His Holiness Dalai Lama, all of them, not only that, they inspire so many beings to be more kind, more compassionate, more non-violence, So they inspire by their teaching, they inspire by their actions, their practice. And so definitely that is, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that is the meaning of that verse, okay? 29. When you look at it, it seems kind of a little bit confusing when you just see if you don't have little bit of explanation. If you are reading by yourself, it seems kind of contradiction to what we hear. As the question asked by Eloise, because we always dedicate to achieve enlightenment as quick as possible, and a lot of that. So when you see it, it seems like kind of confusing, contradiction to that. But again, it's only just a matter of cultivating more stronger courageous attitude of the bodhicitta attitude, So when you train it, yeah. I don't remember, again, there was another teacher, His Holiness, again, I don't remember the teacher's name, and I don't remember also the exact quotations, but again, His Holiness mentioned about another teachers. I think he's from Myanmar traditions. And then, in his writing, then he dedicated, by all the virtues of whatever virtues that I have created through composing this and that, may I be able to born in the lower realms of hell realms in order to be benefit to the sentient beings of there, So similarly, you see very many kind of practitioners who have that kind of bodhisattva attitude. That is their courageous attitude, they're willing to go through all of that. So then third one is the practicing in the moral discipline of both sattvas, and that contains the other virtues. And that's verse number 30. I shall purify limitless, inconceivable land and remain in the 10 directions for all those who call by my name. Again, this is training. Again, when you are on the path, on the Bodhisattva path, we train, through visualization, imaginations, through prayers, dedications, to create a kind of pure land, your pure land. When you become enlightenment, when you become Buddha, then you have your own pure land, where then you can help all sentient beings who are born in that pure land. So that is what is. The land here is referring to the Buddha's land, or individual Buddhas. And that is similarly with others, the Amitabha pure land there, because Amitabha made certain prayers, dedications, practice when he was on the Bodhisattva path. And then that Amitabha pure land resolved when he became enlightenment. Same with the Vajrayogini pure land, again, as a path, when they are on the path, they made a certain prayers, certain dedications, certain practice. And then each of those pure land have slightly different because of their dedication, prayers, and different attribute of individuals, those because. And so that is where, when you are training on both of the path, also we make, and also you see that in Lama Tsongkhapa, in one of his prayers, by anyone who hear me, who hear my name, who see me, who recite, may they be born in this and that, and may they say like that. And you also see many others practitioners. Lama Zopa Rinpoche also does that, a lot of dedication prayers, like that. And also that is part of training in this, and we train, by dedicating in our everyday, anyone who see me, whether it's a good intention or bad intentions, anyone who look at me in a nice way or bad way, anyone who say good things or bad things about me, anyone who hear about me, anyone who touch me, may all of them, be born in the pure land, as I achieve enlightenment, and may I be able to help, benefit, lead them to enlightenment, by hearing, by touching, by seeing in bad or good way, may they all achieve enlightenment, may they all find peace, may all they find compassion, bodhicitta mind. So training and dedicating and the path, that is part of that, so that is so basically purifying, or what is the so it's just giving by calling my name, it could be calling by calling your name, like reciting your names, by seeing, by hearing, by touching, all of that, do that. And purify limitless, inconceivable land means, like purifying all the undesirable. In a pure land, there's everything that is desirable. There's nothing that is undesirable. There's nothing that create the cause of pain and suffering. Everything there is create cause and condition for happiness and to practice the Dharma. The description in the pure land, is like, everything you hear, whether it is the wind sound, whether it is the bird sounds, whether it is the human sound, whatever sound you hear in Dharma, all of them in Dharma sound. Everything that you see, it inspires you to practice Dharma. Everything you smell, it inspires you to practice Dharma. Everything you touch, it inspires you to practice the Dharma. Such is the environment, such is the Pure Land. And therefore, practicing in the Pure Land becomes easy because everything is kind of supporting and inspiring you to becoming a cause to practice, and so that kind of Pure Land is created through the individual practitioners when they are on the path, both of the path, as they're training in that way. And so that is here training that way for us also, making that kind of in our mind, creating our own Pure Land, so where we can be benefit to so many others without having to suffer so much, and make those kind of prayers, dedications, and mentally creating those kind of that. And then by the power of prayers, dedication, and your practice, when you achieve enlightenment, because all your prayer dedications has been perfected, and therefore they come to actualize. And through that actualizing, all the prayer you have made, all the dedication you have, all the practice you have, it has perfected at that time, and then it kind of create that. And because of your prayer that you have made and the karmic connections of that, connected with that prayer and the people's karmic connections, then they can be, when you become enlightened, then they can easily be kind of, due to that karmic connection and your prayer, then they can be easily kind of, be born there and receive the teachings and to be able to practice without so much of suffering in that. Yeah, so I think that is all more or less meaning of that verse. And then kind of summarizing all, summarizing it, summarizing the practice after we have taken the vows of vows, I shall purify all my bodily and verbal form of activities. My mental activity too, I shall purify and do nothing that is non-virtuous. So that is, in short, we try to do nothing that is harmful, hurtful, unwholesome, and non-virtuous. To the body, speech, and mind, as we mentioned before, not hurting others through physically, by taking the lives of others, by beating them violently, hitting, beating, any sentient beings, not stealing, destroying others, not stealing or destroying others' wealth or objects, things, not engaging in sexual misconduct and not disturbing and others' relationship, not creating problems to break up others' relationship, not telling lies, stopping from telling lies, that are not truthful, that are not truth, and then and not engaging in the divisive speech, where trying to divide those who are in harmony, and those who are disharmony now, we create more divisive speech where it makes them impossible to become more harmony anymore, creating more and more distance, So someone, they might not be in harmony at the moment, but there is a possibility them come kind of reconciliating and then becoming in harmony. But then through our divisive speech, then we create a impression to each others that how bad they are and to each other. And through that, then again, we create them more and more distant through our speech, and we have to be more careful. Sometimes we are not even aware we are doing that. Sometimes we are not aware we are doing that. That's why we have to be mindful. We might just think we are just kind of having a nice conversations, and being, sharing our thoughts, our feelings. But sometimes if you are not mindful, the thought and feeling that you are sharing, you are saying something that creates kind of other person more distant from another person. That is already some kind of level, So we have to be careful and mindful of when we have conversations, Sometimes even if we don't mind, we might not have the intention to create any kind of divisions, but still our speech can become a divisive speech if we are not so mindful, and then harsh speech, something that is very hurtful to someone, it can be a very harsh speech. Doesn't have to be a word with cursing or bad. Sometimes it can be, the word might sound pleasant, but it really hurts others. You push the burden of the others. It really hurts them. So using such harsh words and idle, meaningless gossips, covetousness, evil feeling, wrong views, mentally, So we try to avoid all of those harmful, hurtful, unwholesome, non-virtuous actions to the body, speech, and mind. On top of that, not only we avoid those non-virtues, but we try to engage into the virtues and helpful and wholesome act of engaging into such as 10 virtuous actions that help and benefit others, that supports and help and benefit others. Again, through the door, physically, verbally, mentally. Either from one of those 3 doors, or whether through 2 doors, or whether from all 3 doors, we try to help and benefit. That is part of the Bodhisattva's training. That is part of the having taken the vows. Bodhisattva is training that, try to be help and benefit as much as possible through 3 doors. Instead of taking life, trying to save others' life. Try to engage into saving others' life, liberating others' life. For example, animals that are going to be slaughtered, if there's a way that you can buy and liberate them, we can liberate them. If there is some animal that might be kind of crushed by some car or someone because they are on the middle of the road and people might not see it or might not pay attention, putting them in a safe place, safe side. If animals drowning in or insect you see in the water drowning, try to save them, and so like that. Not only you don't engage in taking lives of others, but you save their lives, helping them instead of beating and violent being showing love, compassion, affections. Whether it's a human beings, whether it's an animal, showing your compassion, gentleness, that can give them sense of security, sense of love, compassion, care, showing that, and sometimes, physically, verbally, emotionally, mentally, um, mm, and same thing, mm, instead of stealing, not only we avoid stealing, but then we try to practice generosity, charity, and help and give. So that is the virtues, of act of bodhisattvas, to practice instead of taking others that doesn't belong to you, but instead we try to share and give what we have and what they do not have and what they need, if possible, in whatever way, Instead of engaging in kind of sexual misconduct and breaking the other's relationship, we try to not to disturb others' relationship by not engaging in such, sexual misconduct. Those who already are in a relationship, but instead, then we try to help, to build their relationship better, to be more stronger, more better. Mm. Mm. When they have some difficulties in others' relationship, if there's a way that we can help support them so that they have better relationship, they have more peaceful relationship, if they have, so they can have more harmonious relationship. So then we try to help and benefit in whatever way we can, if there's any opportunity, and if we're able to do that to support and help them, we do that, and then instead of not only we avoid, telling lie, but we engage in being honest and truthful, unless there is a very, very more important factors to kind of, reasons and factors to do that. Otherwise, we try to be truthful and honest all the time. Instead of divisive speech, we try to use very gentle, kind, caring speech, loving speech. Instead of divisive speech, we try to engage in a speech that is more reconciliating. When someone has some bad feeling with each others, negative feeling with each others, because they think that person doesn't love them, because they do bad things, they say bad things about them. And if you hear the other person say something good about that person, sharing that, so that the impressions is not totally kind of. So again, it's not just, we are not lying or making up, but if you have heard something, that person, that person also said good thing about you, at one time he or she said that, he or she was very appreciative, grateful, thankful, all of that. And so creating more kind of unity, engaging in the speech that create more kind of harmony, more unity, more reconciliations, and so engage in such speech and virtues. And then, instead of idle gossips, meaningless idle gossip, we try to engage in something meaningful, something more virtuous, if possible. Because a lot of the idle gossips are the source of a lot of problem in the society. A lot of fake news nowadays are started with some gossips. So And so therefore, and then in terms of mind, we train our mind instead of being covetousness, wanting when you see something good in others, someone good, then instead of them, you want for yourself. And then instead we kind of train our mind to be dedicating for others. And if you see something, good things, success, whatever happening, you rejoice, you dedicate that they have more success, more happiness, more peace, more virtues, and being content and happy by seeing their success, their joy, their happiness. It's just like when you see success of your child, happiness of your child, goodness of your child that you care about, you are just happy and content by seeing that, Instead of, you don't feel like, I wish I have that, my child's success and happiness and peace with me. You don't feel that way. You just feel, I'm so happy. I'm so content and so happy that he's successful, he's happy, he's joyful. So like that, contentment, by seeing the other's happiness, joy. So we train our mind to be that instead of covetousness, instead of harmful thought. We try to generate love and compassion by seeing, there are also another sentient beings, who make mistakes just like ourselves. When it's controlled by delusion and karma, we lose our control just like that. Sometimes also when they have overcome and overwhelmed by the delusion and karma, then they cannot control themselves, and then they engage in such an attitude and behavior, and therefore they are suffering just like ourselves. Sometimes they don't know even they are suffering. Even they are suffering, they are not even aware they are suffering. Just like so many people, even they have problems, they are not aware they have problems. And since they are not aware they have problems, they never ask for help. Even when everyone sees they need help, they have problems. Some people have problems, substance abuse, But sometimes people are not even aware they have that problem. They think it's not a problem. But the families, friends, everyone sees they have a problem. Similarly, so many sentient beings, so many beings, they are suffering. They are not even aware they are suffering. They have problems. They are not even aware of problem, but definitely they are suffering. And by understanding their pain and their suffering as another human being, as another sentient beings, even though they do not wish suffering, they are suffering. And by feeling, then we try to, instead of ill will feeling, we try to cultivate love, compassion, And then instead of wrong view, then we try to have the right view. The wrong view that is based on ignorance. So we try to change that ignorance, and by applying the wisdom, by analyzing investigations, examining, and through that kind of wisdom that examine, investigate, analysis, then we come to correct understanding. And through that correct understanding, then we come to the right view instead of the wrong view. And so through that, then we transform, we avoid 10 non-virtuous actions, and then we engage in 10 virtuous actions. By avoiding 10 non-virtuous actions, we avoid harming others. Okay, that is what we do. By avoiding 10 non-virtuous actions, we avoid hurting and harming others. through one of the doors, through one of the action from one of the doors. By engaging in 10 virtuous actions, not only we are avoiding harming others, we are helping and benefiting them. We are helping and benefiting them directly, indirectly, by engaging in the 10 virtuous actions in that way. And that is the essence of the Bodhisattva practice. If we try to put the very essence of Bodhisattva practice, in a simple way, is be help and benefit to others as much as you can. On minimal level, at least don't hurt and harm others. That is Bodhisattva's kind of practice. If you kind of put into a very simple way, it contains in that two things. Don't hurt and harm any sentient beings. And if you can, or you should, try to not only not hurt and harm others, but you should try to be help and benefit to others as much as you can, according to your capacity, your ability, whenever you get the opportunity to do that. So that is, so I think that is, so that kind of finished about the cultivating the Bodhi, aspiring, engaging Bodhicitta, and taking the vows, aspiring, engaging Bodhisattvas, and the practice commitments of that. And next is having cultivated the Bodhicitta mind, after having generated the Bodhicitta mind, how to engage into the Bodhisattva contact or the practice, how to engage, or what to engage in, what are the Bodhisattva practice. Now, once you cultivate the Bodhicitta mind, then you become a Bodhisattva, and once you are Bodhisattva, so what is the contact, the practice one need to engage on the Bodhisattva path? So there is common Bodhisattva practice according to the Prasana Paramita Yana, and then the practice, uncommon practice of the Tantra. Okay. So in that two categories. Then in terms of the first one, in terms of training into the Bodhisattva contact or the practice, the common, or in the Sudra Yana or Paramita Yana, then there is the practice of engaging into the practice of the higher training of moral, higher training of moral discipline, higher training of, concentration or material concentrations, and higher training of the wisdom in those three. But even though it is not here in the actual verse itself, basically it includes the practice in 6 perfection or 10 perfections. That is the Bodhisattva practice, the common practice. Once you cultivate the Bodhicitta mind, then you engage in the practice of 6 perfection, 10 perfections. The 6 perfections, the practice of generosity, the practice of moral discipline, the practice of patience, the practice of joyous effort in virtues, the practice of material concentrations, the practice of the wisdom. So those are the 6. And then when we count as the 10 perfections, then on top of that, then the practice of method, the practice of power or forces, and the practice of perfections of prayer, and the practice of perfection of exalted wisdom. Those 10. So those are the 10. And those 10 practices are very much related with the 10 bhumis, In each of those bodhisattva paths, of course, those all the bodhisattvas try to engage into all those practice. But then when in a sudden booming, you emphasize on one particular practice strongly than others. So, generosity with the first bhumi, moral discipline related with second bhumi, patience with third bhumi, joy, and virtues with the fourth bhumis, meditative concentration related with the fifth bhumis, wisdom related with the sixth bhumi, and the method related with the seventh bhumi, and the force of power related with the eighth bhumi, the prayer related with ninth bhumi, and exalted wisdom related with the 10 bhumis, so that is how it comes in relation to that. But in each of those bhumi, each of those paths, they all practice all six perfection, but with each bhumi, they put more emphasis on one particular and perfect more in those particular, So here, Adisha, in the actual verse itself, he doesn't mention about the generosity, the patience, and meditative concentrations from the six, from the those three from the six perfections, but mostly the three perfections that he go in that details. Okay, here. And so the first one is the practice of higher training in moral discipline. I don't know, we have time. Maybe I can, maybe we can start this from next week, but something that is not mentioned here, so the practice of generosity, I don't think I need to go so much in detail on that. The practice of generosity, in the practice of generosity, is a training your mind to overcome greediness and miserliness, stinginess, so through the practice of generosity, you learn to let go of stinginess, miserliness, and greediness. And instead, we learn to be more open, sharing, feeling of richness inside, feeling of having enough, to be able to give, to be able to share. So that is the actual training of your mind into do that. The generosity, the internal generosity, there is a generosity of material things, there is a generosity of, giving Dharma, knowledge, education, knowledge, and not only education, knowledge, the generosity, especially the spiritual Dharma knowledge as well, then the generosity of love, and the generosity of fearlessness, in a way, giving fearless, protect, again, as I mentioned before, like if you see, then, individual, whether it's an animal or a human being, they are fearful of some things, because they are being harmed, because they have been attacked, or because there is a danger of being attacked, because there is a danger of being harmed, then trying to help them to give protection so they can overcome their fear, so they can overcome this fear and protect them from whatever harm they could get, whatever harm they could get, whatever. So providing that, that's and then, the generosity of the loving kind, generosity of the love, you know. Providing the love, you know. So not only providing the physical wealth and material help, but also providing emotional help through love, you know. So trying to help, and not only just the material physical help, but also emotional help, and that is through the love, you know. Because I guess, especially in our modern time, I think that might be missing the point. That might be one of the things missing in our new world. People feeling unloved, you know. That's why a lot of people have problems, you know, in their life, because they feel like nobody loves them, nobody cares about them, you know, despite they might have, you know, all others external needs they need, but still they have mental, emotional, you know, problems or pain and sufferings because of not having got enough love, not having received enough love, you know, and it's crucial, you know, and when someone doesn't receive the love, when they don't, then they don't know what love is, then they can become very violent, you know, the chances of them being violent, because they don't know what it means to be loved, because they don't experience that, they haven't experienced that. And because of that, people have difficulty trusting others. And I think, again, I noticed that is one big problem in this country as well. I guess maybe all over the world, but I think there is more stronger level of that. And I think that I feel that people who didn't feel love when they were especially young, when they didn't receive the love, you know, because they were kind of abandoned, you know, because they were not treated well, then I think that is where they have difficulty with trusting other people's, you know, because that is what they experience from very young, and they still carry that, you know. And so you know, love becomes so important to heal someone's such feeling of, you know, trauma, you know. When they receive the love, when they feel the love, they can be healed of their trauma, and that can help them to be less fearful of others, and that can help them to be more, because they understand there are people who care about me, who love me, you know. So that opens their mind, and it helps them to, you know, be more trust to others, and it will be more healing to whatever emotional trauma that they might be going through, and physical trauma due to that mental emotional trauma, you know. Those can be healed. And so so generosity of all of them, you know. And then the practice of both sattvas among the six perfections, you know. So that is why here is not but like in Lamrim, in all the Lamrims, then you see the six perfections coming here, you know, the practice of the bodhisattvas, the conduct of the bodhisattva, the practice of, you know. And then of course, if you are, you know, interested in, you know, more, you want to learn more about generosity, then you can read Lamrim commentaries, you know, and it's more more details on that practice, which is not covered here in terms of direct explicit verses here, so and then the other practice is not mentioned here, but very important part of the Bodhisattva practice is the practice of the patience. Again, not only someone who is training in the Bodhisattva path, I think patience is needed for everyone. It's needed for everyone. Due to lack of the patience and being impatient, make us frustration. Impatience lead to frustrations. Frustration lead to anger. All of that. And so if you have more patience, then you have less frustrations. Less frustrations, less anger. And we all know how painful it is to be so impatient, to be so frustrated, to be so angry, all of that. And due to that impatientness, then it leads to anger. And when you have anger, then we lose love and compassion. And we all know, someone you felt a little bit of compassion before, maybe you might not feel compassion anymore because you are upset and angry with that person. And that can change, our whatever small love and compassion we might have for certain individual at the moment, that can change, from loving and kindness, from having love and compassion to have anger, hatred, and resentful, all can change, happen. And again, many of them, as I said, it come through impatience, impatience. And frustrations. So therefore is the main obstacles to cultivate love, compassion is the obstacles to lose love and compassion. And so therefore impatience. So therefore we have to learn to be patient. And so again, if you want to learn more of that, again, you can read the Lamrins, on the patient chapters. You can read Shantideva's Guides the Bodhisattva Way of Life in chapter 6. So there are many extensive practice with meditating, way of analyzing to reduce and overcome the anger, impatience, and trying to cultivate patience. So yeah, I think maybe so that's all. Any questions? Anything? Comment, questions to share? Otherwise, we'll just do that.
You have a question?
Yes, please.
I got my hand up.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, you can ask.
Geshe?
Yes.
Hi, it's Pat.
Yes.
I want to thank you for this class. It has been really illuminating a lot for me and been very, very helpful. And I wanted to thank you particularly for your discussion of love and the importance that it has in our ability to not understand. The lack of it makes us not understand things when the presence of love can illuminate things. And I thank you so much for that. And also for the discussion of patience, which is something that I know I'm working on myself a lot. And it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So otherwise we can do the dedications. Oh, we don't have share, so I can do the dedications.
I will try the share another way.
If you fail it, then you are done now. You are doomed. If you cannot share now, you are finished.
Yeah, it's not working. Sorry.
Okay. That is technology, you know. Technologies can be irritating sometimes. As good as it is, sometimes it can be irritating when things doesn't work when we need it. You know, we think we have, but yeah, it happens with my computer quite often as well, because I'm not anyway. So we dedicate all our virtues to achieve enlightenment as quick as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings, and guide and lead all sentient beings to fully enlightenment. We also dedicate all our virtues to actualize the Bodhicitta mind and wisdom realizing emptiness within our mind stream and within the minds of all sentient beings. And those who have already actualized, not diminish, but increase more and more. We also dedicate all our virtues for the long life in His own Dalai Lama, Kalya Lama Sabarimoche, and their good health, and all their great wishes and deeds, activities we fulfill without any obstacle. And may we be always under care, guidance, in this life, in further, in all future life, until we achieve enlightenment. And may we always please them through our practice. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Be well.
Stay well. Be well.